Ashwin is so overwhelmed by the prospect of bowling to somebody he's grown up watching. Mahendra Singh Dhoni actually goes up to him and tells him, just remember one thing, you are equally as good as him, and that's the reason why you're here. Before the game started, his Instagram following had about 1,000 people or something. As of recording, it's about 500k or 380k 2 days ago. His career takes off from there, gets picked by Delhi Capitals, 5 crores. It's the kind of money that changes lives.
Funny story is Dhoni was asking him how old you were. I thought he was underage. If we had a IPL and if the net was wider, they would have seen me playing. Stop laughing. I was right arm quick. I could get the ball to bounce off a good length. I was like Curtly Ambrose.
Fairly impressive.
It's in the air. It's a 6.
Okay, IDFC FIRST Bank here again with Century of Stories Cricket. Shashank is with us. Shashank, of course, is a famous writer. He's with the ESPN Cricket Info, makes millions and millions of dollars and invests in the stock market. I don't know why, but this topic is not about the stock. This is about the stock in cricket. And today we're going to talk about all the unheralded Indian cricketers who've gone on to achieve things. Some of them, of course, faded out, but many of them go to bigger and better things as well, thanks to their journey in the IPL. So we're going to start with, shall we go with the flavor of the month? A guy whose story is fascinating. I got to interview him last year and I thought he was great. And now he's rediscovered form and he's a menace on all wickets. As we've seen, took us to the Champions Trophy final and beyond. Varun Chakaravarthy.
Fascinating story of somebody who even 10 years ago wouldn't have dreamt of probably even, playing at the IPL. But here he is having...
Give us a little bit of the background because it's almost like a drama, that the whole dramatic entry back into the IPL.
I mean, he aspired to be a cricketer, then decided that cricket was taking him nowhere, went on to pursue a degree in architecture, which took him 5 full years, came back, joined a company as an intern where he'd create project blueprints. In fact, in his final year of college, one of his thesis was on building a cricket stadium and being able to sustain it, environmental sustainability or something of that sort. So he's done that with cricket. That was his window into cricket that left his life because he felt he was going nowhere. And then he realized that he wanted to start an own company and so he started a small company. But the floods of Chennai in 2016 kind of
Killed his inventory.
Killed all the inventory, so that went bust. And at that point in time, he had gone back to playing club cricket in Chennai because he wanted to just do anything to realize his love for the game. And when he was playing club cricket, one of the Tamil Nadu teammates, Malolan Rangarajan, who's now one of an assistant coaches at RCB, wanted to have a few net bowlers, and one of the net bowlers was Varun Chakaravarthy. Interestingly, Malolan and Varun Chakaravarthy were under 19 and age group spin camp. They were part of the age group spin camp many years ago in Chennai. So it was a kind of a reunion when they two met many years ago. And that's when Malolan, who was still an active first-class cricketer, asks Varun Chakaravarthy to enroll for the TNPL trials. And he goes to the trials and then he gets scouted and then he's picked at the TNPL auction. Interestingly, when he's picked in the TNPL for the first time, Varun Chakaravarthy is a fast bowler. He's not a mystery spinner. He's not a leg spinner. Nothing. No mystery about him. He's bowling fast. And then 2 years down the line, because of injuries, he realizes that maybe it's time to bowl mystery spin. And he's seen millions of videos on YouTube on Ajanta Mendes, Sunil Narayan, and he decides, if I have to be unique, I have to do something that no one else is doing. This is one way of getting noticed, and he bowls. And he happens to do really well in that season. And that's when the IPL call-up comes from Kings 11 for the first time. Great story to go in, but he realizes 8.4 crores is price tag, and that season lasts all of one game. He's injured, back home, on the mend.
If you get injured, and you 8.5 crores you're talking about for Varun, after one game you get injured, do you get paid the full season rate, that 8.5 crores?
So if he's injured after one game, he gets paid just for that one game on a pro rata basis. If he's available for the entire season and didn't get to play a single game, he's entitled to the entire contract fee. So in Varun's case, he didn't get the 8.4 crores in the first season because he was injured after one game.
So for him, everything was going wrong, even when things were going right. And then in the last 6 months, or rather since the last IPL, his life changed completely.
Yeah, the turning point was when KKR picked him. They were interested, one of the bidders who Punjab outpaced to get him in the first time. So when KKR had a second opportunity, they signed him. He was coming out of an injury. COVID had struck. He hadn't played a lot of cricket. And then he came in and did exceedingly well for them. And from there on, he's become a household name. So a failed cricketer who went to do architecture came back into cricket because he didn't know what else he wanted to do
Switch
in
from
life.
fast bowling to spin.
Switch from wicket keeping to fast
My
bowling
God.
to mystery spin to starting a business and failing at it. Yeah, I mean,
And
these
today
are
our
what
front-
dreams are
our
made of.
frontline spinner.
And frontline spinner in T20 cricket, fascinating comeback, part of the Champions Trophy winning team. So, yeah, I mean, 10 years ago, he didn't dream of it.
But there have been many other stories as well with this romantic touch where, coming from nowhere and then just IPL changes their lives again. Of course, they've got the talent. There's no doubt about that. Varun is special. What about R. Ashwin?
Playing street cricket, tennis ball cricket in Chennai was his ticket into, playing in the IPL. He was, in the first season that he was picked for Chennai Super Kings, halfway through the season, he was sent back home because the team didn't see him being part of the 11. Goes back playing street cricket. And he had this obsession of playing cricket all the time, whether it was on the streets, whether it was league cricket, whether it was playing for Tamil Nadu in a division game. He was that kind of a guy who was obsessed with cricket all the time that even if they told him to be away from the game for a few days, he'd probably come back. And that's what we're seeing today with him, right? He's on podcasts, having played a game at
He's
midnight.
a real cricket tragic.
Next morning, he's at 5 a.m. shooting a podcast and stuff. So Ashwin is a cricket tragic in that sense. And that's been the case with him right through. The early years of Ashwin's struggles as a batter who was often injured, who had
What is with the Tamil Nadu boys? They all start with something else and become the best in their craft with something else.
And he started off as an opening batter in club cricket under 17s. Didn't get picked initially. Was rejected. Came back in. And by the time he broke into the IPL, he had already become an accomplished player for Tamil Nadu. So it wasn't like Ashwin was a sudden wonder kid who came from nowhere. He had already been in the first class system and already captained Tamil Nadu. And then he came into the IPL. But it took him a while to find his feet in the tournament.
What is the story about Sachin Tendulkar and Ashwin, the first clash?
Yeah, the first time, Ashwin's grown up watching Tendulkar reel after one epic knock after another in Chennai. And then suddenly in a game for the first time in the IPL in 2010, he's bowling to Sachin in a match. And Ashwin is so overwhelmed by that prospect of bowling to somebody he's grown up watching. Mahendra Singh Dhoni actually goes up to him and tells him, just remember one thing, you are equally as good as him, and that's the reason why you're here. And that kind of eases Ashwin up a little. And Ashwin that year, becomes the bowler that, who Dhoni banks on under pressure. And that year, Chennai Super Kings go on to win the IPL and he plays a big part. The following year, they defend their crown. In the first over of a 200 chase, he takes Chris Gale out. And Ashwin's career just takes off from there. He goes on to make his test debut for India.
MS Dhoni pushes him into the Indian side.
Test debut for India the same year. Later in the year, man of the match on test debut. Part of the World Cup winning team in 2011.
Correct.
Although he didn't play too many games, a big contribution in the quarterfinal against Australia. So, at that point in time, the Chennai Super Kings push gives Ashwin the kind of limelight that he comes into. And he owns the stage and then shows absolutely no pressures, no fears, and just becomes the person that everyone aspires to be now with 500 wickets and beyond.
Okay, there's two CSK boys, but let's talk about Mumbai for a second. Surya Kumar Yadav, also one of those guys who's been up and down in the IPL. He's been playing for Mumbai, making a name for himself. Makes a late debut for India, but today is the captain of the T20 side. His journey a little different from the others?
Surya Kumar Yadav had been reeling off runs for 5 seasons non-stop before he made that India debut. So, at the time that he actually made his India debut, it was a question of why isn't this guy breaking in? And Surya Kumar literally had to break the door down scoring runs across formats. But the thing about Surya Kumar Yadav is there was an incident in 2011 when the Champions League was happening. Surya Kumar Yadav was deemed injured and the Mumbai Indians wrote to the league organizers to allow them to play 5 foreign players. One of them who was injured and not available is Surya Kumar Yadav. And Surya Kumar Yadav is playing, next day a club game in Mumbai and scores a double 100. And suddenly he's all over the media, the same guy who's injured scoring a double 100.
So what was the story?
At a club game, no one's,
But still
really thinking about injuries and stuff. He goes out, scores runs, takes out all that frustration. Whatever the reason was, he wasn't picked. And then he's part of the KKR setup early 2013-14, plays as a finisher, and it's there that he molds his game. And the Surya Kumar Yadav that we see today is far different to the guy who broke through all those years ago. He was made Mumbai captain very early in his career, but at that point he also lost his job. He was sacked midway through because they felt temperamentally he wasn't, the right fit. He was prone to the odd flashes of anger. He was, so he had to undergo a personality overhaul. He sat down, he worked with psychologists, worked with, mental conditioning coach, worked on his fitness. If you saw Surya Kumar Yadav 10 years ago, you do those 10-year whatever that you
Jumps,
see.
yeah.
It's a massive transformation that he's undergone both on the fitness and the batting front. So Surya Kumar Yadav, another fascinating story of a guy who lived in whose father was a scientist at the Baba Atomic Center. So cricket wasn't something that naturally, came to him, wasn't naturally spoken about in the house. This guy is an outlier and who goes on to play cricket, to primarily, as all Indians do, realize the love for the game, gets big, gets dropped, and then finally makes it. And when he does, he comes out with a bang, and today he's the captain. So another great story made possible by the IPL.
One more great story, recent story again from last year itself, is Mr. Rana. Harshit Rana, who Gautam Gambhir handpicked in a sense and took to the BJT as well. He's playing all forms of cricket now. That's a very interesting story because he didn't really light the IPL on fire either. But there's a canvas for potential to be displayed. And then the powers that be can look at it and you get that fill up in your career and then you're playing for India.
It's about how you're able to handle the pressure on the big stage. Harshit Rana had not played a lot of first-class cricket, but was, handed a test debut in Perth when India won the first test of the Border Gavaskar Trophy. And it was some small traits more than the numbers that he'd put in that, back that had Gautam Gambhir's backing. And one of it was aggression, fire, the ability to bowl bouncers.
That heavy ball,
the ability to not back down from a fight, when the opposition is hitting you all over the park. And those are the small traits that, landed him a T20 debut, a one-day debut as part of the Champions Trophy team, BGT. So, you never know which direction your life is going to turn.
You don't have to have the record that Ashwin has or Varun picks up. You can have a sort of middle-of-the-road record and still make it to the team because people can see there's more to you than, obviously that once you get a chance, you'll display even more.
Someone like Riyan Parag, he's captain of Rajasthan Royals at 23. They picked him at 19. But for the first 3-4 years in the IPL, he was the most trolled cricketer. To a point where Riyan Parag switched off from social media. He became a recluse of sorts. He was not the character that he, was known to be. He completely, cut off from the people that was known to him until, he realized that he needed to change that. And then he went to the Royals Academy that they had set up in Nagpur, trained in 45-degree summer heat. He'd play 2 or 3 T20 games a day, and then underwent a journey of transforming his own fitness. And then he's come back now and he's leading a franchise that probably he may have not been retained if it was any other franchise, but they showed the faith in him, and he repaid that faith last year with an outstanding season. He's captaining them now. So it's a fabulous story. The IPL certainly, makes or breaks.
In the same age group of 22-23 is Nitish Kumar Reddy. Again, Hyderabad, IPL, and next thing you know, one of our India's all-round talent in all forms as well.
Last year, Nitish Reddy came into the IPL and everyone wondered who this guy was. And when he's coming into the IPL this year, everyone, is wondering, what more he can do. He can bat in the top order, he can bowl
bat anywhere in the top order.
Bat anywhere in the top order, and bat so well. You saw him made that 100 on Boxing
Got wickets
Day.
in Australia as well.
And that's another fascinating story of someone who comes from a cricketing outpost, not a traditional centre of cricket. His father had to give up a government job. He was getting transferred to Rajasthan, so he refused the transfer because his son could play cricket, because they weren't sure how an Andhra Pradesh guy going to Rajasthan and trying to enter the cricket system there would, be accepted or not. So he stays back, gives up his job, starts a microfinance business from the corpus that he got from his early retirement from a government job that he had. And then that business fails. And the entire family is behind him, saying that,
I think his mom has to earn to keep them going.
You're spoiling your son's future by putting him all into cricket. And this boy, his father wholeheartedly backs him. He goes on to make his debut for Andhra in the Ranji Trophy. And then he goes on to get picked in the IPL through a talent hunt program. And then boom. 1 year later, India playing a test match at Border Gavaskar Trophy.
In Melbourne, is it? Where he gets 100 and the father's crying in the
Exactly.
stadium. One of those great moments in sport for all of
Great
us to
moments.
watch. So, all looking good for Nitish Kumar Reddy. But as we talk about these guys, there's also the oddball stories, if I may call it that. Praveen Tambe, 41 years old when he gets picked and they had a good season.
And Praveen Tambe was a liaison officer at the D.Y. Patil Stadium where they hosted the first IPL final, and he was in charge of ensuring that the ice baths are in place for teams, the bus is on time, pickups are sorted for
But he
coaches.
was playing for Mumbai.
Training. He was playing club cricket in Mumbai,
Right.
but he wasn't a regular in the
Main Mumbai
first class
11,
setup. And then he plays club cricket. He has a full-time gig at a shipping firm. And cricket is just a passion that keeps burning along. The full-time job and life takes over. The running a family, educating kids, and so he gets into that entire cycle where he's playing cricket because he loves the game and not expecting anything in return. And then he's playing for D.Y. Patil in a tournament at 41 only because one of their primary spinners, Rahul Sharma, who was supposed to play for India and who he wasn't available for that game, so they put him into the 11. And he does really well in that match. And that match happens to be watched by the talent scouts of the Rajasthan Royals, Zubin Barucha and team, who were, happened to be there. So in Praveen Tambe's case, it was, I think, a case of being in the right place at the right time. So he gets noticed there. They pick him into the squad. And 1 year later he's playing the Champions League
Quick
T20.
word now that you mentioned about the scouting system that India has developed, where it was in 2007-8, where it is now, in terms of every crevice, every corner, under every stone, they're finding cricketers. They're finding all kinds of cricketers, north, south, east and west, which was not something it was a very city game in terms of up to the 80s and early 90s.
2008-9, I think teams had the option of picking players from the catchment area. So if you were from Karnataka, Bangalore, you could pick players from northern Karnataka, Goa. Tamil Nadu could do the same in and around Andhra Pradesh and so on. So they had a certain area from where they picked players. So they weren't casting the net far and wide. But I think in 2013, when Mumbai Indians unearthed Jasprit Bumrah, a lot of teams began to see value in being able to send players out, send scouts, coaches out to different parts of the country and pick talent, pick players. So that automatically raised the profile of the domestic tournament, like the Syed Mushtaq Ali, the Ranji Trophy. A lot of the coaches and scouts who were at these games started looking at talent from a different lens. And that also brought in a lot of motivation to the players, because since then, the profile of the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy was very, very low-key. The tournament started in 2007, but until 13-14, it was just another tournament in India's domestic calendar. Today, because of the IPL and because of scouting and so much that goes on in
It's
the
one
auction,
stop away from entering
it's
the
a
IPL.
massive tournament. I mean, this season,
Ajinkya did well in the SMAT, and then
Ajinkya did well.
got a
This
recall.
boy called Priyansh Arya, who opened the batting for Punjab Kings in the first game, he happened to get a century in the opening game of the Mushtaq Ali. The only opportunity that he had before the auction, because the auction was on the second day of this tournament. So whatever he did after that would have been immaterial. So that first day of the tournament was the biggest opportunity that he had. He grabbed it. He scored 100 against Uttar Pradesh, hitting Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Karan Sharma and all these guys. And he comes into the limelight with Punjab Kings picking him up for 3.8 crores. So sometimes it's about being in the right place at the right time. Sometimes it's about that one opportunity that if you're able to convert, you get noticed.
Shashank, if I could just say this, I think the net being wider would have given a chance to cricketers like me back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, when if they had the opportunity, we had a IPL, and if the net was wider, they would have seen me playing. Stop laughing. I was right arm quick. I could get the ball to bounce off a good length. I was like Curtly Ambrose.
Fairly impressive.
Yeah, people didn't want to bat. Everybody bought 2 Abdi guards when I was bowling. Yeah, one in the right area, one elsewhere. IDFC First Fact. One of the league's most fascinating stories, Praveen Tambe, observe my leg spin, made his Indian Premier League debut for the Rajasthan Royals at the age of 41 years, almost as old as I am, becoming the oldest ever IPL debutant. He also remains the only bowler in the league to have a unique hat-trick to his name that was achieved in only 2 deliveries. Not every story has a happy ending in the IPL. In the sense, there were great moments. But if you look at some of the, I don't want to use the word one season wonder, but we've had a few guys who flattered and then sort of disappeared. So let's look at Swapnil, Kamran. If you remember these names, because this is from the early years, and all the way to the last few years, if we can think of a few of them who did well and then sort of, just went off the boil. Paul Velthati got 100, and then again, just after a couple of seasons, we don't hear of him.
I think that's also a sign of how cricket has changed. I mean, Paul Velthati did really well in that one season where he became the highest run getter for Punjab. Then I think started the next season, but he got injured, and then no one looked at him again. So sometimes, unfortunately,
So what is it? Is it bad luck or?
In some cases it is bad luck. I mean, Swapnil Lasnotkar had a great season with Rajasthan Royals for the first year. No one thought he'd be a T20 opener, because
Beautiful story about Shane Warne and him, because Shane Warne doesn't speak any Konkani or Marathi, and Swapnil doesn't speak any English, and they have to merge, and how they did, and how they got the best out of each other, and he was a mentor to Swapnil.
And Swapnil was known for his red ball batting at that
Yeah.
time. He was coming through as a young cricketer in Goa, wanting to play red ball cricket, wanting to succeed in the Ranji Trophy. I mean, no one had noticed or heard about him because Goa often played in the Plate League, so it's a rung lower than the... So no one really paid notice. But here was Shane Warne who called him for the camp, and when he saw him step out and hit spinners for big sixes, that's when he noticed that this boy has something about him. Brought him into the camp with the promise of not giving him 11 or a spot. Said, you're coming
He'll grow there.
You'll grow into the role.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you're going to immediately play. And he saw that spark and that hunger in him. He saw that commitment to training. Here was a guy
Also some
who...
fearlessness. I remember that season very clearly. He was like a fearless batter.
Absolutely. He reminded you of Romesh Kaluvitarana from
Sanat
the
and
1996
Romesh. Exactly,
World Cup.
on my mind.
Diminutive right-hander,
Yeah.
going after the bowlers in
Yeah.
the power play. So he saw that commitment at training to a guy who he had made no assurances of playing. And then before the game, he thought, that's the best time to break it to him that he's going to be playing. Because Warne felt at that point, had he told him that he's going to be playing 1 week earlier, he may have probably deviated from everything else he was doing right, because he was told he's going to play. So I think that was Warne's way of kind of, firing him or motivating him, whatever. But again, that knock and that season made him. I mean, Swapnil Lasnotkar today is an accomplished coach in Goa, who's looking after the feeder system.
Not taking anything away from them. We are going back 18 seasons. But then you'd expect after that first season, they win the cup. He's very much a prominent member of that season, and blue-eyed boy of Shane Warne. What happens after that? Why did he trail off?
I think he started in South Africa, then he got injured, and then poor form. And then once you get into the cycle of injuries and form and fitness issues,
too competitive.
It's a vicious cycle. The competition is way too much that it takes one performance for somebody coming in, replacing you to score runs, and then there's no looking back. So there's been so many players, that's happened to, and it's not something that will stop. I mean, players have to be prepared for it, I think.
Up and down. But closer to this period, or rather this Zamana, if you like, Umran Malik, I think about 3 years back, was like the toast of the IPL. He was bowling at close to 156, 157, some of the deliveries, and people were saying, we've got the next Shoaib Akhtar, Brett Lee. Again, off the boil.
Completely. Injuries. Also, I mean, I've heard, stories where he's probably taken it a little too easy. Some people say that, probably fame may have got to him.
Work ethic or entertainment?
Work ethic. I mean, some players are not able to handle the fame and everything else that comes with, your stardom. And Umran Malik has had, problems dealing with that. And he's been working with a number of people to come back on the right track. And one of the things that Kolkata Knight Riders saw in him was they thought that this boy had, the potential that they could feel, that they could, work with over the next 3 years. And that's why they signed him at the auction. Unfortunately, he's got injured. But I hope there's a way back for him. He's too
Still
good a
young,
talent to
still
miss
young.
out. Still
Well,
very
in
young.
the same area is Mayank Yadav, who seems to be perpetually injured now, and Prithvi Shaw, whose story is almost like a tragedy at the moment, but he, again, still young, still 26, I think, if I remember correctly.
Absolutely. And Prithvi Shaw is an under-19 World Cup winning captain who has come in, the hard way in Mumbai, toiling away in the, the Harris Shield and Giles Shield, made a record-breaking 400
a documentary
runs.
made over him as a young boy. He was a
Absolutely,
prodigy. He was the next
yeah.
Sachin in many ways.
Scores 100 on Ranji Trophy debut. Everyone suddenly comparing him with Sachin. Contracts flying left, right and centre. Delhi Capitals get Daredevils in the middle of that under-19 World Cup campaign. Sign him at the auction for 3.2 crores or 1. I'm not sure of the exact number. And then life suddenly changes. He sees endorsements, fame, test debut. He scores 100. And then suddenly, here's a guy who Ricky Ponting.
But again, there's an injury also.
There is an injury in
if I remember
Australia,
correctly, and
that denies him an
the
opportunity.
momentum sort of
comes
people don't
back.
understand how injury can take the momentum out of the whole game
Yeah.
for the person.
And then once that happens, he's not
But then
the
off
same.
the field stuff is also, or are we just the internet just sends you story after story?
I think
reel after
I
reel?
think it's massively important for players. There's so much education these days. A lot of these big tournaments, ICC tournament example, teams are often told the do's and the don'ts. Some IPL franchisees have even conducted seminars for players through professionals about handling money and fame and investing money the right way. So there are certain decisions made, but you need to be willing to take it as well, right? That you these things can't be forced upon a player. So
But Shashank, he had Ricky Ponting as mentor or coach, whatever you want to call him, who himself went through that in a sense. In his early years, if you have any memory,
yeah.
he had a drinking problem, he had to be rehoused, had to be reschooled, and then he went on to become one of the greatest batsmen of all time and one of the finest Australian captains. So that would be a great mentor for a guy like Prithvi if he's going off the pitch as well. And I would think if he couldn't help him, then that's not a good sign, because who will?
but I think time's still on his side. I mean, his talent has never been in doubt, and I don't think anyone for a moment thinks Prithvi Shaw is any less a batter than he was or he will be. But I think it's about your temperament, the way you handle your setbacks and comebacks. So hopefully there's another comeback waiting for Prithvi Shaw.
Mayank Yadav?
Mayank Yadav, I mean, was a talent hunt program that he came through. Initially, he was a net bowler, but when they saw him bowl thunderbolts and break bats at training of batters, accomplished batters who would carry two bats to the nets, and when he broke both the bats, then they realized here is a guy who's
Who doesn't know how
unleashed,
quick
who
he is.
doesn't know how quick he is,
Yeah.
and because he's bowling that quick, no concept of biomechanics. Maybe it's a good thing that he wasn't aware of biomechanics and all those things, and he
Bit
broke
like a
through,
young
because
Jeff
he wouldn't have been a fast bowler then.
Yeah.
So he comes in through a talent hunt program, does well, breaks bats and nets, and suddenly people wake up to not wanting to face him in the nets. Accomplished international player saying this guy I don't want to face before a match. And that's when Lucknow Super Giants kind of wake up and say that, boss, this is a guy who we must probably, play into the main squad. And then he's, brought in. Nobody knows about him at that point in time, so he's a base price pick. And today he's a retention player, so he's been paid
But the
many times.
The negative story on this whole thing is that he should have played for India by now. I think he did, or almost did,
Yeah.
but it keeps breaking down. There's some cricketers who seem just destined to get injured.
Yeah, another example that comes to mind is Kamlesh Nagarkoti. Everybody thought he was the next Hardik Pandya in 2018 when he, broke through in the Under-19 World Cup, which India won under Prithvi Shaw, Shubman Gill. He was part of the same batch. KKR came back and brought him for 3.2 crores at the auction. A guy who was capable of bowling 145 clicks, batting in the top 7, a rocket throw from backward point. Everything was made for him. Unfortunately, he spent the next 3 years rehabbing at the NCA, to the point that he was taunted by a few players saying that, is this your home now? Is this is where you live or what? So, unfortunately, he's got that reputation of now always being known as the guy who's
Breaking
injured
down.
and not playing. So there are so many of those guys who come through the age group systems with an unstructured way of training. They're not used to the high performance environment, and they think that's the method that brings them to the the big stage. They carry on with that, over bowling, whatever you call it, and then they frequently break down, and then there's an injury mechanism that has to take over, and then they fall into that cycle of being managed and rehab and all that. So it's a cycle for players, young players, especially young Indian fast bowlers. And we are also, as Indians, enamored when we see somebody bowl 150, 155.
I don't
as
think
we've
Indians,
seen
I think
in
all over the
case-
world, if you see a fast bowler, you just
more so us in generation who grew up watching spin
That
and
we didn't have
wondering
them, yeah.
who our next fast bowler. Like Pakistan produced so many by the
Correct.
truckloads, and we grew up being scarred by Sanat Jayasuriya and Kaluvit Arna hitting Venkatesh Prasad and Debashish Mohanty all over the park. So when we saw someone like a Zahir Khan come through bowling 145 early on, or Munaf Patel who was 150 clicks.
But again, 150 in the beginning and then 120 towards the end. I don't understand how
exactly.
these
I
things
think
happen.
It sparked that excitement. So we are, as Indians, very excited when we see fast bowlers.
Well, before we conclude, it's time to face the fact. And the fact is that the IPL is now going to produce your international cricketers for India and perhaps for other teams as well. Whether it's red ball, 50 overs, or actual T20, for which it's destined to be. So I think I don't see that trend changing. No matter what you say about they must play more red ball cricket to win at red ball. We aren't playing enough first class cricket in India. So batting against spinners, weakened, so to speak. But the way it is going forward, I can't see any way out of the IPL. The IPL is going to be this big dragon who's going to decide your future, whether you're playing red ball or white ball.
Right or wrong, I'm not sure, but I think there are certain steps that's now being taken to ensure that there is a demarcation, at least when it comes to Test cricket. Someone like an Abhimanyu Ishwaran, for example, does not play in the IPL. He's more seen as a red ball batter. He's toiled for about 10 years, scored 8,000 runs in first-class cricket. Hasn't played in the IPL, but is struggling to break in as an opener. And the other extreme is Harshit Rana. One season of the IPL does really well for KKR. They win the title, and boom, he's making his Test debut, despite having not played in the format. So there is a balance that the coaches or the selectors need to maintain.
But you come into prominence because of the IPL. It's so high profile. Yeah. I mean, you can play a lot of Ranji Trophy and nobody knows your name for some reason. I mean, the selectors do, but at the end of the day, the kind of power the IPL seems to propel and give you an immediate fame, and that's why you've got these success stories at the beginning of this episode we've discussed. There's so many of them.
Vignesh Puthur, the Mumbai Indians left-arm spinner, I mean, has not played any form of representative cricket, not the under-19s, not the under-23s. Not the under-24s.
Funny story is Dhoni was asking him how old you were. I thought he was underage.
and he's not been part of any camps. Mumbai Indians go to one of a nondescript place in Kerala, which is where often it rains. And there's this one tournament called the Kerala T20 Cup that's happening. And they see him bowl 3 overs. He doesn't take a wicket. But they feel that they've seen something in him in that game. And they just pick him for trials. They send him to South Africa to be part of the MI Cape Town side as a net bowler, where he learns and bowls with Rashid Khan. And then here he is, bowling to Chennai Super Kings on debut, picking up 3 wickets. And
within 12 months...
And somebody told me the other day, before the game started, his Instagram following had about 1,000 people or something. As of recording, it's about 500k. Or 380k 2 days ago.
Within 3 wickets. 3 wickets changed
3 wickets
everything.
And a week later, that's the kind of...
And he might play for India in the next season or so. You never know.
You never know.
Without possibly playing for Kerala.
Possible.
So this is what the IPL does. And again, like you said, no judgment on it. Who can say right or wrong? But the fact of the matter, it's here. You just have to accept it. Yeah. I keep going back to when I was a young man and we had so many people from the Bishan Bedi era saying 50 overs is pajama cricket and it's rubbish and this and that. And then you have gone to T20. So cricket has changed so much and so quickly. And the fact of the matter is that the father of cricket is now T20 and it's feeding the other two.
And it's not just performances in IPL propelling players to India. Performances in the local leagues is now giving players a platform to play for India. So I think no longer is the India dream. Today a young cricketer can, make his life and career by just playing in the IPL, even if he doesn't play for India. Yeah. Someone like an Ashok Dinda, for example, in 2008, the very first season when scouting was non-existent, this guy comes from a family of farmers, rice farmers.
And outside Cal, it's not even
4 hours outside of Calcutta. Yeah. So he has to travel, 4 hours one way, 8 hours. So he leaves home at 4 a.m. in the morning to be at training at 7, goes back home at 12 in the night. This is a cycle that continues, and his family couldn't afford the 1,000 rupees per month that it cost them to ferry him to commute, from his hometown to Calcutta. And he comes through this speedster hunt where he doesn't attend trials for the first day because he thinks, what is the chance that I'm going to get picked among 1,000 people? Second day, he jumps the queue, he gets into the trials, bowls fast, becomes the East Zone winner, goes to the national competition, and he's picked as one of the 2 fastest bowlers from that talent hunt program. Goes to Australia as on a sports scholarship, comes back in, and what are the chances that on the day he's come back to training, Sourav Ganguly asks for a fast bowler because he's been dropped from the Indian team, he wants to, train, and this guy bowls day in, day out, non-stop, and as long as Ganguly wants to bat. And that is how Dinda comes into the picture. Kolkata Knight Riders hand him a contract and he's bowling with Shoaib Akhtar in the IPL. Yeah. So Dinda may have not had...
And he played for India also.
He played for India. He didn't have the kind of career that,
But he's had a decent run. He's had a decent run in the IPL.
But for somebody to have come from where he did, to even go on to have an accomplished career with Bengal in the IPL, it's unbelievable.
Mukesh Kumar, who's presently playing for us or in and out, also similar story.
Comes from Bihar, wanted to give the civil service examinations, failed at it multiple times. Finally gave up, came to Calcutta, stayed in a room with 8 people, sharing a 300 square feet place with 8 people, playing club cricket there. What are the chances? I mean, when he came into the Bengal camp for the first day, he was, and they do a routine physical examination of all the trainees. He was found to be malnourished. He was found to have bone edema, and that treatment itself cost a lot of money. This guy hadn't heard the concept of insurance because he couldn't afford it. So the Cricket Association of Bengal lodged him, took care of his medical expenses, put him in the camp, and in the talent hunt that they had to pick the fast bowlers, he was rejected by Waqar Yunus. Ranadev Bose, who was a former Bengal fast bowler,
I remember him.
goes to Waqar Yunus, tells, let's give this boy a chance. I think there's something in it. And then he doesn't have shoes to bowl the next day. So he comes in, he's given a pair of boots, bowls in that camp, impresses. Finally, reluctantly, they pick him, and then they put him into the probables. And even after getting into the probables, Mukesh plays 1 game, misses 3 games because of injury. Because he's got this
Bone thing.
Yeah. He's got this malnourishment that, obviously somebody who's not, whose family can't afford 3 meals a day. It's very natural for him to just survive on whatever biscuits or whatever. So they get all that right. They work with him for 1 year, and then he makes his debut. Guess who he picks up on debut in Ranji Trophy? Virender Sehwag, first wicket. So, his career takes off from there, gets picked by Delhi Capitals, 5 crores. It's the kind of money that changes lives. Probably his entire village in Gopalganj in Bihar is now rooting for him. So it's just unbelievable how that one window of an opportunity in a big tournament or a small
Let's
tournament.
squeeze in one more story. Akashdeep, again on the fringes, plays for India, can play for India depending whether we pay 3 or 4 seamers. What's his story?
Father was a cab driver who came from Bihar to Calcutta to make a living. Suffered health issues, so he has to go back to his village. Akashdeep obviously wants to play cricket, comes to Calcutta, stays with a cousin, goes playing club cricket in Bengal. No one picks him for the first couple of years. And then he continues toiling away, and then suddenly in one league game he comes up against Manoj Tiwari, who's at that point Bengal captain, does really well in that game. They pick him, and from there he gets into the Bengal squad, doesn't play for a couple of seasons. They persist with him, and then finally when there's an injury happens, incidentally when Ashok Dinda
gets injured,
leaves Bengal for whatever reason and he goes, there are a couple of spots that have opened up, and then Akashdeep comes in, does really well, gets picked, and his story takes off. So in the first couple of years in the IPL, Akashdeep was a net bowler with RCB. Didn't play a game, kept traveling in the pandemic, live in bio bubbles, bowling his heart out in training sessions day in day out, comes back out, and then he goes on to get picked by RCB, plays in the IPL, and this time around 8.5 crores by Lucknow Super Giants. So again, another great story.
And is an India name now.
As an India name
right
now,
there.
played in Australia. And very much in the thick of things as far as his international career goes.
So there you have it. The IPL has produced lots of great stories. Some stories go on a little longer, some not so long. But I think everybody who shines at the IPL for a little while at least becomes the toast of the nation, which is the prominence of the tournament and just the position it has in terms of, the entire market that's around the IPL. Almost like the entire country is, benefiting from it. And it does to a lot of, not just financially, but also from an entertainment point of view.
Absolutely. Makes careers and, brings them from nowhere. I mean, Mukesh Kumar, Varun Chakaravarthy are a few names we discussed. There's so many others. Yusuf Pathan, for example. I mean, played 1 game for India, but it was really the IPL that lifted his career in 2008 when Shane Warne backed him and gave him that opportunity. Jadeja, a youngster who may have been lost to cricket if not for, that guiding hand from Shane Warne in the first couple of years. In his early years, I think in the second season, he was banned from the IPL for 1 year because of trying to negotiate a contract from another team outside of the auction and all that. And then he could have been lost to cricket. Then Shane Warne brought him back on track, kept working with him, and today he's a legend now. So
Ashish Nehra reinvented himself for the 4-over format.
Absolutely. 2010-11, his career appeared to have hit a dead end. I mean, Ashish Nehra was again another injury-prone cricketer. Probably spent more time. I think Ashish Nehra is qualified enough to have a medical degree now. He'd probably read bone scans and he'd read, these scan reports as well as any medical professional because of the number of injuries that he had. Again, IPL turned out to give him a new lease of life with Chennai Super Kings. reinvented himself as a death bowler, came back and made a superb comeback into the Indian T20 side, and had a great last 3-4 years of his career.
Also, let's quickly talk about the foreign influence, the idolizing that happens because you're with these legends and you play with them. Pollard and Hardik Pandya, for example.
I mean, Hardik Pandya, again, a pick out of the scouting network from Mumbai Indians from Baroda. He's picked by John Wright, who was one of their scouts, who watched him hit, towering sixes in the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy. Brought in straight away into the camp, not with the promise of being picked, but just to be able to assess. And by then, the Mumbai team has already started training for the IPL. And Kieron Pollard watches him, train and bat in the nets. Hardik Pandya was very wiry at that point, not the bulked up muscular guy that he is today. But he sees in him the ability to hit long sixes, the ability to, swing like what they call as a golfer swing. And that is one trait that he kind of highlights and tells him about, and, helps him understand that that's the one trait that's going to, make him a big player. Not, nudging the ball around for singles and building an innings. He says, you are born to hit sixes. You are born to, bat the way we
Go
we
deep
see
in the crease
you.
and hit it straight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the trait that gives him the confidence to be able to, do what he, does today. So it's a 1%ers, as you say in cricket, that sometimes goes a long way, and that's what Pollard
Also,
saw
you
in
can see a few
Hardik
of the
Pandya.
mannerisms while walking, the clothes,
The Caribbean swag that you call
all
it,
that
yeah.
seems to have come in.
And Malinga with Bumrah as well. That's another influence that you saw. The first time that Jasprit Bumrah walked into the Mumbai Indians dressing room, he was so overawed that he couldn't he wouldn't even be able to mumble a word to Lasith Malinga. And towards the later years in the IPL, he would call him Mali, and then the two of them, were plotting and planning dismissals and bowling one end up. It was almost as if teams only had 16 overs to bat with, because 2 overs of Malinga and Bumrah at the death meant absolutely next to
Impossible,
nothing.
yeah.
So they became that prolific pair. Again, that early mentoring from Lasith Malinga to a youngster who had broken through, who had not played any form of big ticket cricket until that point, to come into the setup. Bumrah was known to be a little hot-headed. His celebration after he took that first IPL wicket of Virat Kohli, it told you, how hot-headed he
Different
could have
Bumrah
been.
completely.
But that Bumrah is completely different to what we see today, and that's because of the the time that he spent in the setup, bowling with somebody who's been there and done that. So I think those influences are also very, very understated in the IPL.
Who was the better IPL bowler, Bumrah or Malinga?
Bumrah is the all-time GOAT. I mean, but Malinga would obviously make any IPL 11 as the foreign
Let's give
player.
Malinga the best Yorker, and let's give all-round bowler to Bumrah.
Possibly, yeah.
So there you go. That's the IPL story. If you're a young boy watching this, or young girl, because the WPL is rocking as well, this is a great time for you to try and make it into the franchisee teams and never look back after that. Speaking from the experience of two guys who are in management with IPL teams, myself and Shashank, let me tell you, this is the future. A perfect win-win situation. Gujarati ma win-win situation. You thought the episode was over, didn't you? But not before IDFC FIRST Bank and I help you stay safe online from all those scamsters and fraudsters that are available. If you ever receive an email which has unbelievable offers on products, then please continue to not believe them, because they're most likely full of malwares and viruses. Always check the official website before clicking on any links which seem too good to be true. Stay safe.